Thanks for coming back to the latest episode of the Credit Clubhouse. We are your one-stop shop for all things credit. Before we jump into our next episode, we have an exclusive offer for our listeners. If you're interested in attending any of our conferences throughout the year, we have a great deal for you. Just head to www.dealcatalyst.io, pick the event you want to attend, and enter the promo code CREDIT at checkout. This will give you 10% off any ticket to any conference. As always, don't forget to follow the show, rate us, and leave a review. We encourage your feedback. It'll help us make these episodes a better listen for you. And now, on to our next episode. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Credit Clubhouse. As always, I'm your host, Todd Anderson, Head of Content and Programming at Deal Catalyst. And today I'm going to do, one of these other formats again. We had just had our fourth event in the last couple weeks, and my jet lag might be getting me from Dubai, but I landed from Dubai this morning, and I wanted to kind of capture some of the key themes that came out of our visit and ultimately our event that we held alongside the Dubai International Financial Center, or the DIFC. And I think it was really just a fascinating conference and fascinating time, spending a few days in Dubai and getting to know the folks coming to the event, especially local banks, local investors, about kind of what's happening in Dubai, but not only in Dubai, in the broader UAE and the GCC and the Middle East overall. And I think being that we had, visited earlier in the year, we did another conference in Abu Dhabi. I think what I could take away from Dubai is the level of excitement and interest from the local audience is just exceptional to see. When you talk to people, we held a pre-event, welcome reception, and no matter who you talk to, a local banker, a local investor, a family office, a sovereign wealth fund, our local partners at the DIFC, you all get the same, which is that the Middle East is quickly becoming one of the, and it might even be today, I believe it was said at the conference a couple of times, kind of the main hub for capital flows outside the US. And that's just extraordinary to hear. And the local participation in either fundraising transactions or even some of these local markets, both CLOs and ABF and other structured or private credit opportunities, is just only beginning to really ramp up. And you could hear it when talking to people on site. I think that was probably my top takeaway, is just how excited the region is for opportunities, both locally but globally. And you're seeing the flow of capital, kind of maybe reposition itself away from traditional powers in both the US and Europe. It might even be starting to balance a little bit around the globe. Obviously, you still have China in the East. You have the US in the West, and obviously Europe constituting the West as well. But now you have this partner in the Middle East, and you're starting to see the scales maybe finally, even out a little bit. Today you still have to say that the US is, a dominant force, but there was a poll that we did on one of the opening sessions, and the poll asked, in, I believe it's 5 years, what countries or region do you see the greatest interest? And I think it was the US, which was still dominant, and people still think it's dominant. But then you had the Middle East, and you had China. Europe was, well behind those two, and so you're seeing the the interest in the Middle East as a region. And I think traditionally it's always been thought of, yes, you have sovereign wealth and oil money that is providing capital to some of the large funds, some of the mid-sized funds, even some of the lower middle market and some of the earlier stage funds as well. But I think it's becoming a lot more than just a fundraising trip for folks now. You have people setting up shop in Dubai. You have people setting up shop in Abu Dhabi. You have people setting up shop in Saudi and Qatar and all the other folks that represent the GCC, and that is really what struck me most when visiting this week is just that exuberance of, hey, this is becoming something more than just a place where people can stop in or suitcase bankers or suitcase funds. They stop in, they fill up their capital coffers, and then go back to the U.S. or Europe and distribute the capital. There, you're starting to see the capital be distributed locally, which I think is a super exciting opportunity, obviously for the GCC, but also for the global balance of opportunity in some of the markets that obviously we cover here at Deal Catalyst, whether it be direct lending or leverage loans, CLOs, structured credit more broadly, asset-based finance. I mean, it's fascinating to see the local audience be as positive and excited as they are. The other top theme, and I'll cover probably three or four here, is that the sophistication of the local investor. And granted, I'm still a nascent visitor of the GCC, but um, it seems the sophistication is increasing faster than even US or European funds initially maybe thought it was. Earlier in the year, we held the event in Abu Dhabi, and there was a range of questions. Some were very basic. What is a CLO? What is private credit? All the way up to very sophisticated questions about risk return profile and covenants and the like. And now the it seems that the sophistication gap has really shrunk, a pretty significant amount. And talking to the folks that we essentially brought over for our event in both the U.S. and Europe, you don't hear as many telling you that, hey, I have to kind of be very basic in my explanation of what strategies we might cover. The questions they're getting from local partners is a sophisticated understanding of, hey, this is the potential of a CLO market here, or can you answer a question about about this that is beyond just what is that strategy. And so I think the level of sophistication is increasing at a pretty rapid pace, and that goes beyond just your large sovereigns, which are obviously involved in a lot of different investing strategies. You're starting to see the family office level also increase in sophistication, and I think that is only increasing. Back to the first point, the excitement amongst foreign fund managers who are flying in because they're really starting to discuss with local investors, the opportunity to participate in a variety of fixed income and other alternative strategies. So I think it's something that is going to only continue to grow at a rapid pace. You're starting to also see the local participation amongst investors. I had a conversation with a rating agency who said they did an event 3 years ago, 50 people, then 2 years ago, 100 people, then 150 people this year. And so it really is interesting to see how interested the local market is becoming in products or events that are coming to the region. So it's not just this small nascent audience. It's really starting to grab hold. And you can tell that in the conversations as well as the participation. We had over 300 people attend our conference, and that is, 75 or so more people than we had back in Abu Dhabi. And so you're just I think the pace of interest is increasing faster than I would have even thought. Say I'd recorded this back in February, and I think it's really fascinating, to see and hear. When you're having conversations with both the fund managers or banks flying in, as well as the local investors or local bankers. The other key point I think is just the diversification of the local audience away from just the LP dynamic, which is still a key dynamic. There's still a ton of capital in the region that's looking to get deployed in a variety of ways. But I think the local fintech or specialty lending market is really starting to gain traction. The DIFC themselves host an event that gets about 10,000 fintech attendees now, and you're starting to see a real growth with the funding opportunities within the fintech space, buy now pay later, to SME loans. There was a panel we did on APF that featured some of the more popular platforms, and you hear them talking about securitization, you hear them talking about warehouse facilities, and a few years ago you probably wouldn't have heard any of that. And I think that speaks to where this region is heading and how quickly it's starting to head there. I think there was so many times I heard throughout the course of the event how quickly things can change in just a 5 year time period. It goes beyond just like, hey, this is going to change over a generation, 20, 30 years. People are really starting to say, like, hey, this market can evolve from nascency to top five in the world. And I'm just playing with numbers there, but in just a few short years. In 5 years feels in some ways like a long time, but it's really not. And the path and pace of the opportunity and the change in the Middle East, I think, is really speaking to that, amongst these markets that obviously we cover all around the world. And in fund finance, even we had a panel on fund finance at the event that saw a good amount of interest in it, and the event earlier in the year, it was there, but it wasn't as much interest. And so you're just seeing that rapid pace over and over again come up throughout the course of our event. The other thing I think is, really helped, set the event apart, and ultimately, played into our success, and the local dynamic is, working with someone like the DIFC. They've really, spent the time and effort to not only, help people that are looking to come to the region, but to understand what those problems are. Salman Jaffrey, the head of business development, even said it in his opening remarks, like, we're here to solve your problems, the client's problems. And I think, you really see that through the DIFC. You talk to firms that are DIFC members for 25 years or 20 years or 10 years, and that's really an ethos that is obvious when talking to folks, and speaking with attendees or sponsors or speakers throughout the course of the event. And I think without a partner like that, obviously you can't put on events that are successful like this one. And ultimately, those that are in that local market are going to be the ones that help you and our community understand it the way they need to. And I think that was evident working with the DIFC. I mean, it was a great day and a half. You could say that we were there at the welcome reception. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, and this plays kind of into the last piece with the DIFC, is just the level of thought, thoughtfulness and interest from the regulatory piece, which I think keys into right up the points that I've been talking about this whole episode, which is they want to be known as a key place of global financial activity. And I think they're, understanding that all, with their visits all around the world. I think Salman is heading to New York and Washington, and the exchange of ideas and understanding of how some market might work in the U.S. or Europe. You're just the connective tissue between those different markets, and how that intellectual capital is then passed on and then absorbed, and then regulatory environment is then adopted and changed, and then capital flows therefore follow. And I think that's a key piece to this element as well. Is the Middle East is clearly dedicating itself, the Dubai, DIFC, the broader GCC as well, to becoming a hub of activity. And Dubai obviously is at the center of that. And that was evident through our visit. And it was just a fantastic event. We look forward to continuing to work with DIFC and into 2026 and beyond. And I think, clearly over the course of these last couple of weeks, from our ABF conference to our UK mortgage conference, to our SRT conference, now to our fixed income alternatives conference, that there's just a lot of interest from both the LP, the GP, the bank, to really bring more sophistication, more innovation, more capital to these markets. And I think you're going to see a lot more evolution in the next few years than you've seen the past 15, 20 years. There's always the kind of regulatory piece hanging over, some of these markets, but I think you're also starting to see the regulatory perspective be, very conscious and thoughtful about how to regulate some of these markets. And you still have, negative incidents happen, and we had Tricolor, First Brands, some of that fraud related, some of that due diligence related, and those things will happen. But with where the markets are heading, could those things maybe be caught earlier before they come into a systemic risk, which is ultimately what none of us want, because that can help reshape markets in negative ways, more regulation, less capital flows. And I think that is not something you're seeing. I think you're seeing, more thoughtfulness, more innovation, more structuring around a lot of these different markets that we're covering here at Deal Catalyst. And I think it's an exciting time to be a part of where this change is heading. And I think the Middle East is certainly making itself more present than it has. And I think that's only healthier, when thinking about where capital's going and what that capital is participating in, around the world. And so, I want to thank our partners at DIFC. It was a great event. We look forward to continuing to work with you. And that goes to all of our partners and sponsors. It was a great time in Dubai, and we look forward to keeping our momentum in the Middle East in 2026 and beyond. Just a short episode for today. Just wanted to capture that excitement that we had the last couple days in Dubai, and look forward to having more successful events in the Middle East in the future. So until next time, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for coming back to the latest episode of the Credit Clubhouse. We are your one-stop shop for all things credit. We have an exclusive offer for our listeners. If you're interested in attending any of our conferences throughout the year, we have a great deal for you. Just head to www.dealcatalyst.io, the event you want to attend and enter the promo code CREDIT at checkout. This will give you 10% off any ticket to any conference. As always, don't forget to follow the show, rate us, and leave a review.